The Vita was so revolutionary for its time. The games they had on Vita were groundbreaking. Konami went from making and publishing some of the most groundbreaking video games of our time with Metal Gear Solid, and they had their own division, Team Silent, for Silent Hills 1 through 4. These games were incredible and amazing. If this idiot doesn't shut the hell up saying, "Ooh, well, your time has passed, Japan, when it comes to gaming," shut your ignorant ass up. First off, Japan single-handedly saved American gaming from the video game crash. So what are you talking about? You see, when Nintendo bought the Super Famicom to America, this rose America out of the ashes of the video game crash and single-handedly saved it for years and years. You're so wrong. Even years later, one of the leading dominant companies was a Japanese company. I'm sure you know, Sony, PlayStation 1, dominating over the N64 and Genesis Saturn and Dreamcast. It won over all of those things. Then you had the PlayStation 2, which demolished PCs. Yes, you heard me correctly. Back then, consoles were on the top of the game, and now you have Japanese developers like From Software being the leaders of single-player gaming in the modern era, making games more critically acclaimed than most games in the West, and beating out even titans like the God of War reboot and its sequel. That new game Elden Ring, more critically acclaimed than even Dark Souls 1, and many other games in America, is one of the most critically acclaimed games of our age. Oh, and yeah, it came out from Japan. It came out from Japan, ding-a-ling, so before you talk that shit about, ooh, Japan is history, they were a thing of the past, they were on top, now they're lame. Yeah, Elden Ring would like a word, idiot. It's literally on top of almost every game, even competing sales-wise and critical acclaimness-wise, with online games, and it can be played offline. This was made in Japan, and it's goddamn huge. It's one of the biggest games in the world, and it's from Japan. What about Nier Automata, Persona 5, critically acclaimed across the board, sold like hotcakes, even outside of its country. Oh yes, made in Japan. Metal Gear Solid 5, critically acclaimed, although people had their perspectives, made in Japan. Resident Evil 7, made in Japan. Use your brain, ding-a-ling. What a dick, saying that stupid shit, you don't know what you're talking about. All these games came out from Japan, just like years ago, when America was falling behind in the gaming industry. In Japan, the company Nintendo showed up and bought the Super Famicom to America. That changed everything. All of a sudden, gaming made a comeback in our country. So remember that and show some respect. So dumb. I found all kinds of crazy stuff from all kinds of ridiculous nonsense coming out of people's mouths on the internet. Some people online don't know what they're talking about. Saying that kind of stuff is just so inaccurate. Just had to rant about that for a sec, because people actually went there online saying that stuff. They don't know what they're talking about. So anywho, No Man's Sky is one of the few games that is an indie game, but it's an ambitious one. I had the pleasure of playing it for quite some time. First in 2017, and then later on again in 2022, and 2023. It was incredible, having one of the most groundbreaking video game experiences of our day. A game that actually lets you do planetary travel. You get to even travel inside of planets. It's goddamn incredible. Or the new Spider-Man game. That game actually has a unique combat system separate even from Arkham, and technically Arkham got that combat from some of the old Spider-Man games on PS2. Pac-Man 2600, yeah, it was goddamn awful. What the hell were Atari thinking back then? Pac-Man 2600, yeah, it was goddamn awful. What the hell were Atari thinking back then? Then they had a console from the late 1970s, if I'm not mistaken, and that game was from the 1980s, and they tried to port 1980s technology to an old system from the late 1970s. It looked like garbage. It was awful. What were they thinking? And they do stupid gritty shit like that now with the last generation versions of Call of Duty, Advanced Warfare, and Black Ops 3 during the high time of the PS4 and Xbone era. Man, these companies still do that same gritty shit. This is where they got that from. Just awful. Yeah, that's a fucking classic. I remember playing that amazing shit back years ago where they watched over us in school. They had an arcade center around the entirety of their facility in the entrance. They had an old school relic known as Pong, one of the first video games ever made, and I was addicted. I loved this game. It was a huge childhood staple. Such a well-made, creative game. And it's so simple. Changed my life. Then there was the 007 game. Not that masterpiece GoldenEye that had David Doak working on it. Man, that dude's a legend. No, not that masterpiece. This other great James Bond game on PS1. It was goddamn awesome. You were only in a car, and they took his car and made it an entire game. And it was destructive. Had power-ups. It was fun. The game's levels were incredible, man, and the soundtrack was goddamn amazing. That game was so incredible. Then I would later discover others like, I believe it's Galaga Legion if I'm not mistaken. It was either on GameCube or on PS2. I've been trying to figure that one out for years. It was sort of a compilation of old school Namco games, except updated to near perfection. Kind of like Sega Classics Collection on PS2, except the Namco edition of those old school TV games with the joystick, those Namco TV games, which I also grew up with, and played and kept it for years. Those were incredible. They had a Harry Potter game on PS1, and the first Spider-Man game I played, it was amazing. I couldn't beat the part where you had to climb the building. I kept falling and dying. It was hilarious, but amazing. So yeah, this is basically what I'm laying down. Thanks for listening, guys, and I am now out this week.